So as I said, the monster designs in this game aren't stellar, but the monsters themselves are worth talking about. I'm going to start with the one that I hate the most. Oh god, the screamers. I hate them. Did I say that already? I hate any kind of enemy that takes you out from a distance without warning, and basically they will do that. They have a scream attack that disorients you, and usually by the time I recover, the screamer in question is already on top of me. Maybe I'm just a shitty gamer. Well, of course I'm a shitty gamer, but my point is that maybe that's why they give me so much trouble. They basically resemble women with really big mouths and stretched out faces. Their hands are balled into fists with nails driven through them, and they use these as weapons. Honestly, their design doesn't do much for me. As I just explained, I get how they're supposed to look, but their hands kind of look like low poly claws or something. And there's something about their faces that make me think low poly too. I don't know, somehow their design just doesn't work for me. It's hard to explain. Looking at the early artwork, it looks like they were going to resemble normal women when not attacking. That would have been interesting to see them change like that. Speaking of which, the first time Murphy comes across one, she lures him close by sounding like a woman who is being mercilessly attacked by another inmate who also escaped from the crash.
Tell me something, puta. That true what I heard about you?
Maybe someday we'll get a Latin character in a Silent Hill game who isn't a stereotype.
I'll do a special favor for you later.
There's no official word that I know of on what the screamers represent, but the Silent Hill wiki suggests victims, with the screaming and torn clothing, or sirens, or Murphy's ex, which I'll go more into later. At least you get to operate on one. Murphy doesn't enjoy it much, but I do. Oh, weeping bats are a pain. Really strong, fast, and hard to kill. And they have an annoying habit of jumping up to the ceiling when you're about to deliver a blow. They also have a habit of startling the shit out of poor Murphy, which is kind of funny because the sudden appearance of the weeping bat doesn't startle me so much as Murphy yelling "fuck" or whatever. They show up in the Devil's Pit, and their saving grace is that once you're out of the Devil's Pit, you don't have to deal with them too much, other than the occasional straggler. Once you finally get to the point where you're not obsessively watching the ceiling anymore is usually when a damn weeping bat will show up again. Ugh! They resemble bats in their facial features, and as such, they represent solitary confinement. And they also look awesome, in my opinion. So these ones are really straightforward. They look like prisoners with the gang tattoos and such. They gang up on you and try to kick your ass, the way prisoners would. They're prisoners. See what I mean about some of the monster designs being kind of obvious? Which is not to say that they don't look pretty cool. They all have contraptions on their heads that hold their mouths open in an unnatural smile, and hold their eyes open meanwhile they're bleeding from this. That just looks really unpleasant. You know what? They kind of remind me of the insane children in American McGee's Alice. Minions come in two flavors, brawlers and stabbers, plus there is a third who is a serious pain called Juggernaut. The good part is that you don't actually have to fight Juggernaut directly all that much. At least not at first. The game gives you other methods of dealing with them, like locking them up or, and this is the fun one, electrocuting the shit out of them. Bye! I'm gonna go out on a limb and theorize that they symbolize Murphy's fear of the other prisoners. Yeah, I know that's pretty out there. Apparently at one point they were going to look like clowns. I kinda have a love-hate relationship with this enemy. They are a serious pain, but I cannot deny how freaking cool they are. The doll itself doesn't attack you directly and doesn't even move. Instead, it sends copies of itself after you called shadows, which are nearly invisible unless you have your forensic flashlight turned on. Basically, attack the doll if you possibly can, and the shadows will die. But sometimes getting to it or even just figuring out where the hell it is can be more trouble than it's worth. They also cause serious problems in the Centennial building. Your first experience with them is that they cause a bridge to nearly collapse on you. And I know I said they don't move, and usually they don't, but sometimes you can catch a glimpse of one running around like in this scene. Either way, when you hear this laughter, be worried. They basically look like department store mannequins with a big gaping hole where the mouth would be, which has an uncanny valley kind of creepiness factor to it. They could symbolize Murphy's habit of attacking the symptom of a problem instead of the problem itself, with the doll being the main problem and the shadow being the symptom of said problem. They could also represent sexual repression, with Murphy being a prisoner and all. Because what's a Silent Hill protagonist without some good old sexual repression, am I right? I already talked about the void and how it symbolizes Murphy's desire to run away from the truth, but it could also symbolize his desire to punish and destroy himself, because he is pretty racked with guilt. By the way, I love how it screams in rage whenever Murphy gets away from it for a while. I don't know why, I just get a kick out of it. While running from the void, you can knock down tormented souls in front of it to slow it down, much in the way that you could pull down objects and shattered memories to slow down your pursuers in that game. They resembled mangled humanoids who are suspended in a cage by their own flesh, and they perpetually twitch in agony. They represent those who suffered at the expense of the poor choices made by Murphy. They could also symbolize Murphy's own pain and isolation. Finally, we have wall corpses, which are more of an environmental obstacle than anything, but you do get to shoot them in the final level rather than only being able to dodge them, so that's kind of fun. They shoot what looks like blood, but appears to hurt you like acid out of their midsections. That's just gross. Once again, they symbolize imprisonment and pain. There are a few monsters that I haven't mentioned yet, but I couldn't talk about them without spoiling anything, plus some are linked with specific characters, and I wanted to talk about those characters first. You know, when you really break it down, there are a lot of characters in this game, but pretty much all are interesting and contribute to the story in some way or another, so it works out. Also, most of them either have only 1 or 2 scenes, or are only shown in flashbacks, so it doesn't make the same mistake that Homecoming and the movies make, as far as killing that feeling of isolation.
Look, I don't want any trouble. Just point the way out of town, and I'll keep right on going.
Now, who said anything about trouble?
The first new person Murphy meets in Silent Hill is a mail carrier named Howard Blackwood. Apparently he's a popular character because he also showed up in the comic book Past Life, no I haven't read it, and Book of Memories, whatever. He is kind of a fun character and one of the few in this game who is completely benevolent.
You scared the hell out of me.
Definitely not what I intended.
Couldn't dislike him if I tried. Murphy doesn't seem to quite trust him, not that he's in much of a position to trust anyone.
Name's Howard, by the way.
Murphy.
One has to wonder what he could have done to end up stuck in Silent Hill in what apparently is a loop of some kind. He seems way too friendly and passive to have done something to warrant an extended stay in Silent Hill. Whatever he did, this game does not reveal it. Apparently Book of Memories does, but I want to avoid spoilers of other games. Apparently he was Silent Hill's postmaster in the 19th century, so he's been there a while.
Well, let's just say I could finally put this damn bag down for starters.
He seems to regard Murphy with some sympathy, but also an air of, yeah, you're stuck here, just deal with it as best you can.
Do you understand me? Do ya?
Son, you still don't get it. It doesn't matter what you want.
He is one of the better designed characters in my opinion. He looks pretty realistic without reaching the uncanny valley.
I got mail to deliver. Goodbye, Murphy.
Flow on and on. It's always a perfect day with DJ Ricks, your on-air friend to the end.
Heidi-ho!
DJ Bobby Ricks is an example of what happens when you end up in Silent Hill and don't try to come to terms with whatever it is that brought you there.
Flow on and on.
It's kind of interesting, actually. Think about if Harry or James just went and hid somewhere because the monster scared them too much, or Henry was afraid to go through that hole in his wall, so he just stayed in his apartment. Those games would have been very short and boring, but that's why DJ Bobby Ricks is not the main character of Downpour. Rather than go and face his problems, he holed himself up in the Centennial Building's radio station and called out to anyone who might be in the town who could help him. In fact, we're first introduced to him through the various radios Murphy comes across where he keeps getting dedications.
Keeping on, bro, and your pal DJ Ricks will do the same. Playing the music y'all want to hear.
Eventually, Murphy finds his way to the top of the Centennial Building, where he finally confronts DJ Bobby Ricks in person, which is an interesting conversation.
Man, I came through hell and high water to get here because you called me. Now cut the bullshit, because I don't have time for this.
Thank God someone finally heard me. I can't even tell you how long it's been just spinning record after record after record.
What's the plan?
Right. Listen, I got this boat. She's moored down at the marina. She's fast, real fast. Problem is some motherfucker ransacked the studio and checked the keys.
I'll hotwire it. No problem.
That's not gonna work. This place, it does strange shit to reality, man. It's like there's rules you gotta follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's called gameplay limitations. I get a kick out of that. It kind of reminds me of this bit from Silent Horror.
We'd have been out of here by now if we just busted in the door. You can't do that! Why not? You just can't.
Anyway, he actually knows a lot about how the town works and has a plan in mind, but doesn't have the courage to really use that knowledge to his advantage or try to make that plan come together on his own.
Yeah, sure. Who's it going out to? But that's nice of you to think of me.
Ooh, the next dedication was to him. How very Twilight Zone-y.
They're coming.
And that's the last we see of DJ Bobby Ricks. We never find out why he's in Silent Hill, who exactly those calls were coming from, or what ultimately happened to him. And I thought that was lazy storytelling at first, but the more I think about it, the more I'm okay with it. Not everything needs to be explained. In fact, as the movies have proven, it's sometimes better if it isn't. What's kind of unsettling is that any time you turn on a radio after that point, this is what you hear. Poor DJ Bobby Ricks. And yes, I have to say his whole name every time. I just like to say it. DJ Bobby Ricks! I generally like his design, but as I showed earlier, his animation seems kind of robotic and he doesn't show much expression. It's not a big deal, but what can I say? I tend to notice these things.
What the hell's going on here, Ricks? What is this place?
No time to explain. If we're gonna get out of here, we gotta move fast. You getting this far tells me we might even have a chance of getting out alive.
First time visitor, huh?
Now, J.P. Seder, on the other hand, we do learn why he's in Silent Hill. He was a former tour guide of the Devil's Pit. He seems to still fancy himself as a tour guide, with how he likes to share facts about the attraction whenever he gets the chance.
Name's JP, and that, sir, is the Devil's Pit. 490 meters straight down to the blackest soul of the earth.
He's kind of a geek about it, really.
You know, they say if you were to put the Empire State Building in here, it wouldn't even reach halfway to the top of this place.
Anyway, part of his job involved driving the mine's underground train, which transported passengers from the Devil's Pit to Hillside. And one day he was heavily intoxicated and the train ended up derailing, resulting in the deaths of 8 children. Also, you basically get to experience that ride, so imagine children dying this way, minus the monsters obviously. It's pretty messed up. Naturally, he lost his job, and that spelled the beginning of the end for J.P. Seder. He was deservedly blasted in the media, but he went into denial, claiming that it was just an accident and doesn't count as murder.
Those newspaper men are goddamn fucking liars.
Relax, man. We're just talking here.
What happened? That was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt nobody. I didn't murder nobody.
He also seems to know a lot about Murphy, despite Murphy not telling him anything, not even his name.
Ain't that right, Murphy? Surely your mama taught you about what's right and what's wrong.
It really reminds me of Eddie and Angela in Silent Hill 2, except it's a bit more blatant about it. Still unsettling, though. But he and Murphy share something in common, that they're both in denial about something they've done, albeit for different reasons.
And how about you, Murphy? Someone know all your dirty little secrets?
I never hurt anybody that didn't deserve it. And I sure as hell never hurt any kids.
The second time we meet JP, he's on a ledge, clearly contemplating jumping. You can choose to either console him or taunt him, which will affect what ending you get.
Just wait a second.
Is this a look of pity on JP's face?
Be seeing you around, Murphy.
No! That's right. Take the easy way out. That's what cowards do, right?
Nothing easy about being a coward, Murphy. You ought to know that. Enjoy your stay.
Seems to be that he recognizes that Murphy's in denial just as he is and figures he'll suffer the same fate. Either way, JP ends up with the in-water ending. This is what happens when you face what brought you to Silent Hill and are unable to deal with it. Again, kind of like Angela. Also, at the end of the train ride, this happens. This guy, usually referred to as Monocle Man, is meant to represent JP Seder due to him being perceived as a monster either by himself or Murphy. That searchlight over the eye that looks like a monocle is meant to be reminiscent of that coin that JP is tossing when you first meet him. Also, this was originally going to be a boss fight complete with train-throwing tentacles, as revealed in an early trailer that was not supposed to have been released. No one knows why it was cut, but it may have been due to an approaching deadline. Which is a shame, because he is so cool looking. And that whole theme with the train tracks is pretty cool too. He's so freaking big that his face is being held taut by multiple train tracks. I cannot overstate how awesome that is. But anyway, at least he wasn't cut completely, and we at least get a glimpse of him. Both JP's model and animation generally aren't that great, but I'd say that Monocle Man more than makes up for it.
Well, he's seen.
If you head through the cavern, there's a train. Can take you to Hillside. Boy, I tell you, all the kids, they just love that little train.
How about you show me?
Sorry. Someplace I gotta be.